There is a version of you waiting on the other side of something you're currently trying to avoid. Not the version that shows up after a good year. Not the version that arrives after a lucky break. The version that only gets built through the exact pain you've been trying to escape your entire life. You already sense this, which is why the comfortable path has never actually felt like relief. It's felt like postponement. Like you're circling something you eventually have to walk through. Most people spend their lives trying to minimize suffering, as if pain were a design flaw to be engineered out of existence. They chase comfort, call it peace, and wonder why nothing ever changes underneath the surface. But comfort was never meant to build you. It was only ever meant to preserve you exactly as you already are. Friedrich Nietzsche understood, something most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Greatness has never once been built by a person who was protected from difficulty. It has only ever been forged by people who walked directly into it, eyes open, and let it change the shape of who they were. This isn't a video about pretending pain feels good. It's about what pain is actually for, and why avoiding it doesn't spare you from suffering. It just guarantees you suffer without ever becoming anyone because of it. Comment I choose the harder path below if you're ready to stop avoiding what is already shaping you, whether you face it or not. Let's begin. Act 1. The breaking. Before anything is built, something has to break first. Not metaphorically, actually. The comfortable identity you've been protecting, the routines that ask nothing difficult of you, the version of yourself that exists purely to avoid being disturbed. That structure has to come apart before anything stronger can take its place. And no amount of positive thinking skips this step. Nietzsche didn't see suffering as an obstacle standing between you and growth. He saw it as the actual material growth is made from. His most repeated idea, that what doesn't destroy you makes you stronger, isn't a comfort blanket to repeat during hard times. It's a mechanism. Difficulty either breaks something in you that needed to break, or it reveals a strength you didn't know you had, and usually it does both at once. The people who spend their lives arranging circumstances to avoid ever being tested aren't protecting their potential. They're guaranteeing it never surfaces. Ask yourself honestly what you've been arranging your entire life around avoiding. Not the big obvious pain, the small, constant, low-grade discomfort you've built routines specifically to dodge. The hard conversation, the uncertain decision, the version of yourself that might fail publicly. Every one of those avoided moments is a door you've kept locked. And greatness, if it exists at all, has been sitting behind exactly those doors the entire time. Here is the part almost nobody says out loud. You cannot think your way into becoming a different person. You can only be forced into it or choose to walk toward the forcing yourself. Waiting for life to break you is passive suffering, pain with no direction behind it. Choosing to walk toward difficulty on your own terms is something else entirely. It's the same fire, but now you're the one holding the match. Act 2. The reckoning. Once the old structure is gone, there's a gap most people aren't prepared for, a space where the old identity no longer applies and the new one hasn't solidified yet. This is where Nietzsche's philosophy gets uncomfortable in a way most self-improvement content refuses to touch. He didn't just say hardship builds you. He asked something harder. Could you actually want this? Not tolerate it. Not survive it. Want it exactly as it happened, without editing a single detail. He called this amor fati, a love of one's fate, including the parts that hurt. Not because suffering is good in itself, but because resisting what already happened wastes the only resource you actually have, your attention on what comes next. Most people spend years replaying old pain, trying to rewrite a past that's already finished, and calling that processing. Nietzsche's version of reckoning is different. It doesn't ask you to forgive what happened or pretend it didn't hurt. It asks you to stop spending your present strength fighting a war that already ended. This is also where he introduced one of his most demanding thought experiments. Imagine living this exact life, every difficulty included, on an endless loop forever. Not as punishment, as a test. If the thought is unbearable, it tells you something urgent about how you're currently living. Not about the pain itself, but about the meaning you've failed to build around it. If a version of you could look at the loop and say yes, even to the hard parts, that's not because the hard parts were pleasant. It's because something worth having was built out of them. The reckoning is where you stop asking why this happened to you, and start asking what it's going to be used for. That single shift in the question changes everything downstream of it. Pain without a use is just damage. Pain with a use is material. Act 3. The becoming. Nietzsche's most famous and most misunderstood idea is the concept of the Übermensch, the one who overcomes. Not overcomes other people. Overcomes the smaller, safer version of themselves that keeps trying to reassert control every time real change gets close. This is the final and hardest act because it never actually finishes. There's no point where you arrive at great and stop. The becoming is the entire point. The moment you decide you've finished becoming, you've quietly started decaying instead. This is where discipline replaces the drama of the breaking and the intensity of the reckoning. Becoming isn't a single, dramatic transformation you experience once and carry forever. It's the accumulation of 1,000 small refusals to slide back into the smaller self, the version that wants the easier conversation, the version that wants to be liked more than it wants to be honest, the version that mistakes comfort for peace one more time. Nietzsche respected discipline, precisely because he understood how fragile transformation actually is without it. A person can walk through real pain, extract real meaning from it, and still drift right back into their old patterns within a year, simply because nothing was built to hold the new shape in place. The becoming requires structure, not to control you, but to protect the person you fought to become from the gravitational pull of the person you used to be. And here is the final, uncomfortable truth this entire philosophy points toward. Greatness was never a reward waiting at the end of a comfortable life well managed. It was always something extracted at a cost, from exactly the kind of difficulty most people spend their entire lives structuring their days to avoid. The pain isn't a detour on the way to becoming great. It was always the road itself. You've broken something that needed to break. You've reckoned with what you can't undo, instead of fighting a war that already ended. And now you're in the becoming. Not finished, never finished, just further along than the version of you who was still arranging life around avoiding difficulty. This isn't a philosophy that promises the pain will stop. It promises the pain will finally mean something, if you're willing to stop running from it and start extracting from it instead. If you're ready to stop avoiding what's already shaping you, drop "I want this" exactly as it is in the comments right now. Then go build something out of it.